Yeah. Yeah, so guys, in yesterday's session, primarily we have seen about the job variables, right? So, what exactly the job variables are. So usually job variables are, you can say scalar variable that holds a single value, and but they are, so their scope is limited to a single job. Okay, so if you create any job variable, that is a job specific, okay, that is not a global, or that will variable is not available for rest of other jobs. Okay, like the uh, we have our environmental variables, right? So in environmental variables, if we define that, then that environmental variable is usually a global in nature, right? So all of the jobs within this project can access these environmental variables. Okay, but with the job variables, these are only limited to a specific job. Okay, and then we have seen about the grid variables, right? So grid variables are nothing but the 2D array, and that will hold a scalar values, right? Now then we have seen the example in the grid variable that how can we load our three files using a single component, right? Using the grid variable and using the grid iterator. So what we have done for this is, so in earlier scenarios, okay, we were used to use two or three S3 load component to load the files, correct? So with the grid variables, what we did, we have created a grid variable, right, like a JV file info, and in that uh, 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 we have defined the three columns of the grid variable. So you can assume that, let's say this is my table and I have three columns: file, delimiter, and accept table, and then we have defined three default values for that. Okay, so our expectation is we need to iterate over these values. Iterate in the sense we need to kind of apply a for loop over these values, right? So it should take first value first, then in the second iteration it will take the second value, and in the third iteration it will take the third row. Okay, so this is how we have created the grid variable, and then to map the grid variable column, we have to create the equivalent job variable as well. Okay, so this is nothing but if we have these three columns here, okay, within the grid variable, if we have three columns, then we will have to create the three job variables to store these value for each iteration. Okay, right? So what will happen is, for first iteration, this job variable will store the values of first row. Okay, for second iteration, the job variable will have the value of the second row. Okay, and where we define that in a grid iterator component. Okay, so in the grid iterator component, if you have seen, uh, it is just asking like on which grid variable we need to iterate. Okay, so we have selected that, the one which we have created, and then we need to specify the mapping here, right? So if you see, these are the grid column mapping and these are the variable mapping. Okay, now what we are saying, the column name file should map to JV file variable, job variable, and similarly delim to JV delimiter, and accept table to JV table. Okay, so now when this iterates for the first time in the first iteration, what we'll have in the first iteration, my uh, let's say orders file will get assigned to JV file. That delimiter, I think tab, it gets assigned to JV delimiter, and that SF order table value in the grid variable will assign to JV table. Okay. Uh, Now today we'll just see a little advanced part of this. Okay. Now if you see here, these three value are kind of a default or some like static value, correct? And if tomorrow your business says, or your client says that add another file, and they say that, yeah, so you need to load another file which is sales, let's say, right? So what you will have to do, you will have to come to here in your development environment, and you will have to modify this job, correct, right? And again you will have to deploy that to production, right? Or if again client says, now don't load people file for next 2 weeks, then you will have to come here, and in the grid variable you will have to remove that, correct? So that is a kind of a change process or change request you will have to raise to merge these changes to production, right? Now what if I could set, okay, what if I could set these values from an external table, right? So assume that what if I can store these values in my Snowflake table, and on the runtime I can set the values of the grid variable, okay, from the Snowflake table, correct? So let's look at that part. So for me, okay, let me just create a new job here. I would say external, okay, or maybe JV table I can say. So I'm loading from the table, okay, right? So let's look at this. Yeah. So if you see, you will find one table in our Snowflake DemoDB schema, which I have already created. Okay. So if you see the same thing I'm doing here. Okay. So I am keeping the values now in a Snowflake table. Okay. So I have this file name, file delimiter, acceptable name, and it is just one flag is active or not. Okay. So the same thing which I was hard coding here in the grid variable, right? So the same thing I am now trying to keep it in this Snowflake table. Okay. And what I will do now, I will read these values in my Matillion job, and I will set my grid variable dynamically. Okay. Right. So let's see how to do that. Okay. How to do now to do that in Matillion, we have a component called query result. Okay. So we have two components, query result to grid and query result to scalar. Okay. So query result to grid is nothing but the like getting the query result to grid. Okay. So what this component will do primarily, it will get the data from Snowflake table as per our query, and it will load that data to my grid variable. Okay. So let's see how to do that. So I'm dragging that component. Okay. And now, so let's say I can select a table. So I can select my file loading info table, right? And my table columns, which all columns I need to select? I need to select these three. Okay. And then I need to provide that these three columns or these three columns, right? It will fetch those three rows, right? For orders for people and return, correct? Now I need to store that in which grid variable. Okay. So what I can do, instead of having the basic version, I will use the advanced version so that I can write the query. Okay. Yeah. So if we use the advanced version, what I can do simply here, right? I'm writing a query that select. Yeah. So I have this, right? So select file delimiter, correct? File name and acceptable name. Okay. From my file loading info. Okay. So let me use the standard uh, variable that we have created, environmental variable, then not public, and my table name. Okay. File loading info, right? And where I will just select where is active equal to y. That means which are active. Correct. Yeah. You see, we got the file delimiter, file name, and SF order, right? So this component will fetch these three rows as of now. Okay. And now what I will do, I will try to load that, or I will tell this component that when you get these three rows, store that to a grid variable, and it will ask me which grid variable. So I am giving gv file info, and now here in the grid variable mapping, what we are telling is assign the file name column which is coming from my query, assign that to file column of grid variable. And similarly, assign file delimiter column which is coming from query to delimiter column of the grid variable, and assign the acceptable name column to the column of the grid variable, right? So this file delimiter acceptable, these are the columns of a grid variable. Okay, so if you come here, you see, yeah, these three columns, correct? So now we are setting up the values of these three columns right? Using my grid variable. Okay, so for this, let's say so what I will do is I will just delete this. Let's say I can keep anything here, dummy, dummy, like that. Okay, now what this component will do, it will fetch the query from Snowflake table, and it will assign the result of those columns to the columns of the grid. Okay, and next thing, simply what I need to do is I need to connect that to the grid iterator. Sorry. Okay, so I will have to just connect it to this one. That's it. Don't connect this link to this. Okay, connect this to this, right? And now if I run it again, right, you will see you will see here the three rows have been read. Okay, from our query result component, three rows have been read, and then it in the grid variable it has processed the three rows one by one. Okay, why it is not loading? JV file, JV table. Okay, yeah. I think here let me because actually in our table we already have that .txt part, right, in the query itself. Okay, so I will just remove that from here, right, because we already have that. Okay, and yes, yeah, that should work. Yeah, you see these values have been loaded. Okay, so if you see in our grid variable, okay, we had just one dummy value. Okay, but on the fly using this query, it has loaded those three rows into the grid variable, and then it has processed these three values or three iterations, right? First for orders, then people for, and then for SF returns. Okay, now the benefit here, as I said, if tomorrow client says that I don't want to load the people file for next 2 weeks, okay, so for you, you don't need to change anything, okay, in the Matillion job, right? But what you need to do is just an update this table, okay, and set, let's say, is active equal to no or n, right? Where, sorry, where, let's say, file name equal to this file name, okay. So in this table you can add multiple things, okay. Even you can add the file identifier, a kind of a primary key here, okay, and then you can do that. Now if I check here, what I have only orders and returns as active, and I don't want to load the people file, right? So if I again come here and run this job, only two rows should get fetched from the query result component. Yeah, these two rows. And now instead of three, only two rows got generated and not for the SF people. Okay, so this is how we can refine our job, and we can use our grid variables and load them from the external table in Snowflake, or from a table in Snowflake, right? Yeah. Any question here? Anything?
Yeah, Nitin.
Nitin,
Mhm.
Actually, like this query result to grid, just
Mhm.
you are selecting data, uh, right?
Yes.
But actually,
Yes.
we did not load, right? As of now, like we need to
Yeah.
load data, right? But we are using select query. I have one confused here.
Yeah. Sure. I will tell you. You see
And also,
where.
and also, and
Mhm.
also, like you are updated to Y2N. Just you have updated record. Okay. In that case, why it is two records? How come?
Which record? Yeah, I have updated this record
Yeah, if you
because.
updated to if you updated at database level n, okay,
Mhm.
is active equal to n. Like just you have
Mhm.
updated. Because of that, it is showing only two records
Hmm.
inserted, right?
Yes, right.
Where it is defined actually
Okay,
is
okay,
actually
sure.
equal to.
Yeah, yeah. Sure. I will let you know. Yeah. So the very first thing about whether you are just selecting the records from table, but where we are assigning them to grid variable, right? So in the first step, we have written this query. Now we are telling this query result to grid component that assign the result of that query to a grid variable. So that's why here we have selected that grid variable, right? And then we are saying that load the grid variable column using this mapping, right? So if you see what are these columns? File delimiter, file name, acceptable name. These are the columns coming from this query, right? So if I say if I'm uh, you know uh, renaming this as only sf tbl acceptable, okay, and if I come here, right, you will see acceptable, right? So these are the columns from our query, right, which will hold the result of our query, and these are the column of the grid, and we are saying that load the result from this query or this column to my grid variable column, okay, right? And now about that, the no part, end part, right? Where this here in the query itself, you will see I have applied the filter that where only select where is active equal to y, right? If I select is active equal to n, I will get only one, which is people. Right? But what I need to select, which are active files, which needs to be loaded as a part of my daily process, let's say, right? Clear on this part? How did only two records come?
No, Nitin, actually, yeah, why part I cleared, but first part actually I did not
Okay,
clear.
so okay,
No,
why it's clear, right?
I mean actually what I mean actually we are using this activity to load records,
No,
right
no,
or
no,
wrong?
no, 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 not to load record. Which one? This one, right?
Yeah, whatever you open, right, SQL query.
Yeah. So see, the purpose of this job is to load the files. Okay. Now, which files to load? That we are getting from that metadata we are getting from the table.
Purpose
Okay.
of this job, we are loading initially records to target. Agree. After that, what we are doing, we are loading file details into target table. That is called this one table, right? Just now you gave this table,
Mm-hmm.
info tables kind of
Yeah. File loading info.
file loading info, one of the table. What we are doing, these file details we are loading by using this job. Am I right or wrong?
No, no, no. We are reading these file details using this job.
We are
We are not
reading actually
reading.
where it is loaded these file details into table to read the data.
Yeah. So when I have given this my SQL DDL, right, that file. So there it must be having that in that data. Yeah, if you see, I have already loaded these three as a part of our session, right? So what I'm doing, I created a table, file loading info, and then I had already inserted. And when I ran this complete SQL DDL, that got inserted. Okay, previously, earlier.
Yeah, already you loaded this
Yes.
file sender into target table
Yeah.
manually.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Why manually? This
No, I'm just maintaining the configuration table like of this thing, right? So I'm maintaining a configuration
This
table,
is a setup.
the setup one. Yeah. So I will
Uh,
read this table now. I will read this value and I will load this value to my grid variable, right? See, how now you tell me when we created the grid variable earlier, what we did, we have given these manual values, right? Static values
Yeah,
within the grid variable.
agree, Nitin. I agree. Like
Yeah, yeah,
we
no,
have
no, no.
loaded actually, we have a file names and through files we have loaded to data to target.
Hmm.
Okay, I agree. But that setup, like as you said now, like normally, like for example, these source details also we need to load by using job only, right?
No, no,
Normally,
no,
people
no,
will
no.
do like
See,
that only.
no, see how, so how, no, 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 no. That is just a setup we are doing. So how many files you will have? 10, 15, 20,
No,
20, 30, right? Like that. So no,
whatever maybe.
we will not load that. So you just now you can answer me. Okay. So so I need to get what you understand, right? So you can answer me. So what we did yesterday, we created one grid variable, right? And we have given the static values. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes. Now do you
yes.
tell me tomorrow, let's say you are my client, you say Nitish, Nitin, I don't want to load this people file. Okay. So what I will do? I will come to this job. and I will delete this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mm.
you said, Nitin, I need to add another some different file, which is sales. Okay. So I need to come here and change, right? So as a part of production deployment, what I will do, I will have to change this within this job, right? And then again, I will have to deploy that. Correct. Now, what I'm doing instead of, hard coding the values within the job itself or within this variable itself, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to load this grid variable, okay, using my external table. Okay, so that if you come tomorrow and say, hey Nitin, I want to load the people file again. So for me, it is just a matter of activating this flag to Y or setting this flag to Y.
Yeah,
Correct?
that I understood. Okay.
Yeah.
But for example, like if have a, like any new file load, then again you need to update table and you need to add job
Yes,
level.
correct, right. So you tell me what is the easy for you? For you, it is easy to make just a one line insert into this, or it is easy for you to change this entire job and add here, and again go through all deployment process and all, change request and all.
Yeah, that is easy. Updating
Yes,
a table level, that is
right, right,
easy.
right.
Agree. Normally in real time, like for example, like even I want to capture file names and other stuff. Even though you're loading into table, normally like we will load data into separately, like by using kind of audit process, then we are going to load all the details into target table. Normally, just I could see like
Yes, yeah. So
manually.
it's up to your job design. It's up to your project architecture how you want to implement, right? So this is one way. Either you create some job to load this data, or you load it manually if you just have 5, 10 files to be processed, right? So it's up to you where you want to put your efforts, right? So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
so either you can do
just
manually or
want
you
to
can have some another separate job, and you can ask admin to insert the data or remove the data from this table. It's up to you. But here, as a part of this
Nitin,
process, what we are doing, we are reading from this table which is preloaded, which we have already loaded, and then once this data is getting loaded using this query, okay, what I am doing, I am assigning this result set to my grid variable. That means what will happen on the runtime, my grid variable value will be loaded or will be set. Yeah, clear?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
so
this is
Nitin, just one question,
yeah,
Ramna. So
yeah, yeah, Raman. If you
generally,
can come little louder.
yeah, generally, in real time, if we have a handful of records, then we don't go for data loading, right? Go with the normal insert scripts, right?
Yes, exactly. Right. Handful of records in the file or what I mean.
I mean, in the setup table.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Correct. We'll go with manual, right?
Yeah,
And see, now, like on the first day itself of your project, client will not tell you that I need to load the 50 files, right? You will
correct,
start with
correct. Yeah.
two files, then again next week you got another requirement, add these two files. Again next week you got another requirement. So for you, just a matter of adding this entry, right? But yeah, if you have any requirement, you can also create a job for this kind of audit job, and you can ask admin to run it and insert the new record or update the set in is active to N or Y like that.
Yeah, inserting setup record is again a CR or we don't need, it just go by client
No, no,
demand request.
no. So that depends on your process, but ideally,
Mm,
updating your table or altering
mm,
your table, that is a CR. But
correct, yeah.
inserting the values in the table, that is not CR. Otherwise, for each and every dimension table that we load, we will have to create a CR, right? So this could happen only just with a changed ticket, normal ticket, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how we load the data from external table. Okay. Now, guys, what I want you to try this out now. Okay, so that you could understand what is the relevant of this and how to use that. Okay, so just do one thing, whatever the job that you have created yesterday for the grid variable, you can create a copy of that. Okay, and now just bring in this component. Okay, bring in this component from the query result to grid component to the canvas. Okay, and write this query. Yeah, you can do it. I will wait for a minute.
Yeah, Nitin, just FYI, I came out, so I did not carry my laptop. I joined through my mobile. So I'll try it some other
Yeah,
time.
sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. Who is the Ramana? Na? Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Okay. So Sudha, you want to try now, Sudhakar?
I'll try later. Me also
Sure.
like this
Yeah,
line
yeah.
mobile.
No issues, no issues. Yeah, this is pretty simple, and you can go through recording. Okay.
Yeah, actually, like
Yeah.
I tried by using like instance.
Mm-hmm.
Seems that one needs to be connect with S3 gate, right?
No, no, no. Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. So there will need to connect with S3. But now, so guys, so since this is a weekend, and if you want me to keep this instance on, okay, you can let me know for tomorrow. I mean for Saturday. So today and tomorrow,
Okay, I
so that
want.
you can practice.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Huh? So yeah. So it's up to you. So based on your mutual time, maybe
Yeah, I
today
want.
evening.
That is what I tried actually. Like you showed, right? For that
Partner
actually
connecting.
only S3 gate needs to be connected. If you help for
Correct,
that
correct.
also, then I will use regularly my instance.
Yeah, yeah. Right,
And
right.
as you
Yeah.
told, as you said, I'll keep all the jobs copy and paste to next time.
Correct, correct. Yeah, yeah, right, right. Yeah, so I think I had actually contacted Matillion and they did not respond
Uh,
anything as of now. So let me check back with them one more time. So, but for today, at what time you want to do practice? Let's say for 1 or 2 hour or 3 hour, like say.
3 to 4 hours I want.
Yeah, no, no, no. I mean, at what time? At what
I'll
time?
let you know like after after completing lunch.
Okay, yeah, so sure. So, shall I keep it between, let's say, 3 to 6 today? 3 to 6 p.m.
3 to 6. Only ask Ramana also
Yeah,
how.
Ramana.
no, sorry, Nitin. Actually I came out station, so I did not carry my laptop.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. So, okay,
Yeah.
fine, fine. Yeah, you can though practice that later. But yeah, so since you have all the recordings with you, right? So whatever. So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you can
Till
listen it again, you will
yesterday,
definitely.
yeah, till yesterday I did that.
Okay,
I just have
no
one
issues.
issue.
Yeah,
Maybe I could try it again and I can resolve it.
sure, sure. Yeah, okay, fine. Uh, okay. Yeah.
I'll let you know end of the session. Within.
Yes, you can ping me or you can message me on that group. Okay, so I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
do that.
sure, sure. Thanks, with.
Yeah. Okay, so this is how, guys. Now here we just need to understand the use case here, right? So why we did this, why we use the query result to grid component, and why we read from this table, and why did not we set up that within the job itself or within the grid variable, right? Correct? Here
Yeah.
using, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if we create in a grid variable, if
Mm-hmm.
we that will be static. If we
Correct,
get it through setup table, it will be dynamic.
correct. That's true. Okay. Uh, okay. Setting jobs from parent. Okay. Mm, yeah. Okay. What we can do? Yes. Yeah. So now. So now here, if you see, we have loaded our grid variable from the table, right? Or using one query, right? This is just a simple query, SQL query, and we have loaded that table using the result of that query, right? And this is a grid variable. So as you know, we also have a job variable concept, right? Correct? So job variable, the difference is job variable can hold only one value at a time, correct? Right? But the grid variable can hold multiple values at a time, right? That's a kind of array. Correct. Now, similar to query result to grid, we have another component called query result to scalar. Okay, and this component is useful to load our job variable values using the queries again. Okay, but our difference here is query result to scalar will only accept only a single row from the query, so that output or the result of that query should be a single row, not more than one row, right? Because if we get the more than one row, my job variable, which are a scalar variable, they will not able to hold the multiple values, right? The way the grid variable holds. Okay, so uh, so let's try to use that. Okay, so let's see how can we use that. Okay, okay, yeah, here also we can use. So let me create a copy of this job, and let's say paste this. Okay, and I'm renaming it, and I'm saying that, let's say,
New job.
yeah, it's a new only.
Uh, Renaming actually like job variables available here, right? Like if you take a new job, then we can understand clearly how it is populating job parameter.
No, job. Yeah, yeah. So basically, I will create another job variable. So I will not use that. Okay. So why I'm doing in same job, so that you get end-to-end flow. What exactly happening? Okay. So scalar, let's say query result. Okay. So I have created. Okay. Now, so if you remember, we had yeah, this created this transformation job, right? Process dim people, correct? So here, we are loading data, not, yeah. So here, let's say we are loading data from the people table to our final dim people table, right? So now, if you see this job as well, what it is doing, I mean this earlier job, what it is doing, it is getting the data from query result and it is loading our file, right? So we have three files: orders, people, and return, correct? And our people file will get loaded into SF people table, right? Now, what if, let's say, after that, I can attach this one, correct? So after that, I can load my dim people table, right? Because once this is complete, my SF people will get loaded, and my dim people job, or this transformation job, refers to that SF people table as a source table, correct? Here, right? So I can simply run this. Okay. Now, what if if sometime it may happen, right, that your file has zero records, right? Or your client says an empty sends an empty file, right? So if that file is empty, do I need to really process this job? No, right? So what I can do now, just to explain that query result to scalar uh, component, what I will do, I will use that component, and prior loading this or prior triggering this job, what I will do, I will check first in my SF people table whether there are any records present or not. And if there are records present, then only I will load this. Otherwise, I will skip it. Okay. Now to do that, what I will do is I will get this query result to scalar component. Okay. And now here, what I can do, let's say I need to trigger my SF people or dim people job. Now first I will need to check whether there are any records available between uh, in my source table, which is SF people. So what I will do simply, let's say, to do that, what I am doing is I'm just simply getting the select count of star, because my SF people table will always be a truncate load, right? Because that is in the staging area. So this, let's say, count of star as let's say count, okay, from my database dot schema and dot table. Now, which is my table? People table, right? SF people, right? So if I run it, if you see, it contains, as of now, let's say, zero records. Okay. So now the way here, if you see the result of the query, okay, right, it was kind of multiple rows, okay, and we assign those mapping or those result column values to my grid column values. Okay. Similarly, what I need to do to hold the value of this, which is a count, I need to create a job variable, let's say. So what I will do, I will go to manage job variable, and I will create another job variable, let's say JB count, and I'm keeping that as a numeric, and let's say default I'm keeping that as, let's say, -1 default. Okay, so I will come here. Now again, once I write that query, I will set that scalar variable mapping here now. Okay, and then if I click on plus, now which is my scalar variable name, which is it is actually JV count, and to that JV count I need to assign my count column name, or the value of that count, right, which is coming from my query, and I'm doing that. And then, okay, let me first check if any data is there. Okay, yeah, currently no data is present, but yeah, once we load that, then we'll have that data, okay, in that table. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, now let me, in the file loading info, since my SF people is not active, let me make that active. Yeah, it's currently Y. So what will happen is, using this query result to grid component, I will now get the 3 records, and these 3 files will get loaded using this process. And in case now, then what I'm doing, I'm getting the count, select count of star, okay, as count from the SF people table. Okay, and if that count is greater than 0, then only I need to process this. Now what I will do, instead of connecting this directly, I can use the if component available, okay, in the flow category. Okay, so if you go to flow category, there are multiple, like so we'll check this as well, but yeah, as of now we'll use the if component to this. Correct. Now what is my scenario here? I need to check when this table or SF table contain the count greater than 0, then only process next. And where my count is stored, I have stored in the JV count variable, JV count, right? What I will do, I will come here in the if condition, I will add the condition, the way I add the filter condition, right? And here I will use the JV count variable. So my JV count variable is greater than 0, right? And now if you see in the if condition, I have these now 3 different, you can say, this circle, hollow circle, right? The way I have is green success, unconditional, and this is a failure. In the if component, I have if it is true. That means if the condition which we have written, if that is a true, then what I need to do. If it's a false, what I need to do. And if this component gets failed, what I need to do. So as of now, if my condition is true, that means if my count is greater than 0, then I need to load my dim people table. Okay, so this is how I need to do this. Okay, now what will happen in case if my table has, 0 records, in case this job will not run. Okay, and let me now run this, and if I go to log, you will see our grid iterator has loaded the 3 rows. In terms for people, let's see if we have any records for people. Yes, 6. And even if you check here the if component, this if component return true. That means it has the SF people table was having greater than 0 records, and then it has loaded this. Okay, so this is how we can use the query result to scalar component, and the intention here is to show you like how we can set the value of our job variable from external queries. Okay, so the same way we have set the value of the grid variable using query result to grid. Okay, we can use a query result to scalar. Okay, uh, if in case if I get more than 1 row, okay, from this query, right, then my job will fail. Okay, now in this case I'm getting 2 rows, right, 6 and 1, correct? And if I run this, yeah, you see my job has failed. That is what it is saying. Use query result to grid component if more than 1 row needs to be exported from our query, right? But here since we have to set the job variable, right? And job variable are the scalar variable, which means they can hold only one value at a time. That's why the output of this component should always be a single row if you want to set the values of the job variable or the scalar variables. Okay, any question here?
Yeah, normally job this we are achieving like only like external value needs to be passed as a job variable. Am I right?
Yes.
In this case, actually file name also like for example, I have a source file name. I need to first pass from external source like any file or some any other application.
Mm-hmm.
Here also we have given that value database and we are passing that value to job.
Correct.
Like, can we do directly? Like, for example, I need to actually after doing something we are populating. I mean, actually, like
Okay,
I
before
am
checking that.
I am reading source file. For example, I am reading source file
Mm-hmm.
from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that file name actually we are taking directly file name, but I need to pop. I need to pass while running the job by
Yeah,
giving like a kind of thing.
yeah. There are ways you can do that. Let's say you know that Unix command, right? So you in using Unix command, you can query or basically you can check the file available in S3, right? Using the AWS S3 command. So you can check whether that row is having greater than one record, because usually our first record will be header. And if that is the case, then you can set the value and then you can do that. That is possible. So how to update these variables programmatically? So we'll see that. So we have that option in the Python component where we can update the job variable value using the Python component instead of, let's say, this querying to table. Okay. Yeah. So now I think so you got the difference between query result to grid and query result to scalar, and how can we use that? Okay. Yeah. Another thing. Now let's say uh, uh, what I can do is okay. Yeah. So there is also a capability where you can pass the values from your parent job to child job. Let's say this is my parent job, right, and this is my child job. So you can pass any values from your parent job to child job. Let's say, so for now I am just removing this filter. Let's say I need to filter only for specific, let's say regions, right? So if you see, we have multiple regions, right? East, west, south, central, like that, correct? So let's say I need to load only for, let's say west and east, or let's say west and south. Okay. Now what I can do, I can also pass the variables from my parent job. Okay, again same instead of giving here like let's say my region is equal to let's say west, and my region, sorry, is equal to, let's say, south. Okay, or I can say east and south, let's say, for now, right? So I'm hard coding these values here. Okay, what if I need to pass this from the parent job? Okay, so I can pass anything from parent job. Okay, there is not nothing restricted to, so I can pass my start date, end date, what it is needed. Okay, so now again, so what I will do here, I will create the you can say job variable. Okay, uh, to basically maybe, or you can say that as of now we'll just have one. Okay, let's say I need to load it for east. Okay, so instead of hard coding these values, what I can do is I can create a job variable, and I can pass that job variable value from my parent job. Okay, so let's say in my child job I'm creating, let's say, JV child, or I'm creating any, let's say, filter. Okay, and so my default value is, let's say, nothing as of now, you can say. Okay, so now here, instead of this value, what I can do is I can use the my variable, so JV child filter. Okay, and now what, okay, requires, yeah, it's some it so it needs some default value. So default I'm giving, let's say, NA for now. Yeah. Okay. Now what I can do, I can set that value which we have created this variable JV child filter. We can set from our parent job as well. To set that, what I need to do, I need to go to this the job where I'm calling that my child job. And if you see here, there is an option called set scalar variable. Okay. So if I click here, I just need to set. So here I will get all the variables which are available in child job. Okay. So if you see this first variable, since these are environmental variables, right? So as I said, environmental variables are global in nature. Right? That means these variables are available to all the jobs, right? So they will appear. Additionally, if you see here, right, the JV child filter, this is the variable in my child job, which appears. And now and now I'm telling to this child job, set the value of, let's say, West as of now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what I did, I went to my parent job. I have selected the child job variable which I had created, and I'm setting the value as a West for that. Okay. And now if I run this, what will happen? This job will get only processed for the West. If you see, only 2 records got processed for the West, not for all of the records, right? Yeah. So this is my query which I generated last at during the last run. Region equal to West. Okay. Similarly, you can pass anything. Okay. If you want to apply some filter or anything, right? You can pass that. So let's say if you're trying to run for your historical load or your incremental load, right? So you can pass that value, whether it is historical load or incremental load, or if you want to pass some max date, you can use that. Okay. So anything can be passed from this parent job to child job, but here we just need to either create a job variable or use the environmental variables. Okay, right? In any question here, how can we pass the values from parent to child job?
Normally, like anything we can define, just we need to define parameter at job
Job,
parameter at job
correct.
level.
Child job level, yeah.
That's it. Like from any other job parameter can be defined.
Yes, yeah. So let's say, uh,
Even
uh,
job to job parameter also we can define, right? Not
yes,
only like
yes. So let's say I don't want to use this run history ID here. This is an inbuilt variable, right? So let's say I don't want to use that. I want to use the variable which I am passing from my job variable. So maybe what I can do, so instead of creating this, job, let's say I will create one more variable which is JB run ID, right? And I can pass that from my parent job. So instead of creating a JV run ID or job variable, since that run ID is a kind of a common, we can create that as a here env run ID. Okay, right? And here I am giving this as a numeric. Let's say by default I am giving 0. Sorry, here as well. Yeah, so I'm giving 0. So what I will do now, here in the calculator, instead of using that, I will try to use that variable. And now if you go to variable here, you will see all the variables which are present. If I just double click, yes, I'm using env run ID. Now what I can do, I can go to parent. I can go here, and here I can set my env run ID to the same. So the value is same at the end, right? So run history ID. Okay. So I am just passing that. And let's say here I'm passing now for east. Sorry. Run it again. Yeah, it has completed successfully. It has now loaded only one record. And if you want to see the latest query which has been processed, right now it has passed only for east. And the calculator, if you see, this got replaced. Okay. So anything you can pass from your parent job to child job. Okay. Yeah. So this is how you can pass the values from parent job to child job, and this is how we can use your grid variables and this query to scalar variable and all. Okay. Yeah. Mm, now we have seen this. Um, okay. We have another role skill. Okay. So yeah, so it's being this Saturday is being weekend, so we'll probably stop here. And since you don't have your laptop with you, so probably we'll continue on Monday with the next topics. Okay.
Sure, Nitin. Thanks for that.
Yeah, so you can just practice about these grid variables and how can we set dynamically, how can we set that static, how can we use the query result to scalar component, right? So difference here, if you just understand, query result to grid is to load your grid variable from using a query, and query result to scalar is to load your scalar variable. So scalar variable at any time only can hold a single value, right? Based on some condition, we can do that. And to pass the values from parent to job, you can use the set variable mapping, and you can define some variables in child job, and you can set that from parent. That's possible. Yeah. Okay, guys. In any more questions?
Yeah, Nitin, I'm looking for resume.
Yeah. Who is this?
This is Sudhakar.
Yeah. Yes, Sudhakar. Yeah.
You have your number, I'll contact.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Probably today.
Nitin,
Uh.
just one general question.
Mhm.
Any sample one, like that's enough currently. Just I wanna try. Just I want.
No, sample one I don't have. So what I would prefer is you can, explain the project to me, and then based on that we can try to, you can say design your resume, right? So see, what I want you can relate your current project to Matillion. How can we implement using Matillion and Snowflake, right? So
Yeah,
for you as well, you explain that. Yeah.
agree, Nitin. Like currently, just I'm looking for any resume, Matillion resume, any not only like proper resume. Just I
Okay.
need a resume. That's it.
Uh, okay. Let me check if I can find it. So there is like no specific thing, right? Matlin resume, but yeah. So I will get back, or at least I will tell you what all things to include. Okay.
Your number, Nitin. Nitin.
Yeah. So you are there in that WhatsApp group, right? You can ping me there.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not there, I believe, in WhatsApp group.
No, I have there. This is course drill, right?
Can you say just hi? That's enough.
Yeah. My number is ending with uh
3-2.
3032. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, got it, got it.
And
How is
Nitin, just
market,
one
Nitin?
general question.
Like for example, like how it in market currently, like a new
Yeah.
tool.
Yeah. It's a new tool. And I would say this is the right time for you guys, right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
practice for another 1 month, right?
Mm.
So, so I'm pretty confident that you would get on the same, right? And
Previous batch, like any positive result, they
yes,
got from
yeah,
it.
yeah.
They got.
So with the previous batch, so they are still practicing. So the previous batch has finished just prior to this batch started. Okay, 2 3 days prior. So there are like couple of candidates which were taking the interviews as well. Okay, I think
Mm-hmm.
Rama is here, right, Rama? So Ram is one of the old student of my batch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you know Matillion is enough, right? Anything like don't want to know about much more Snowflake, I believe. Is it right or?
Yes, yes, yeah. You don't need to know.
Normally, I could say like in ETL, like database knowledge only like to load the data
Correct.
to read the data. That's it.
Right. So
Can
the
you say
level of
Snowflake requirement here like that only same?
yes, yeah. So like, have you completed the Snowflake training, or do you know about Snowflake a bit?
I don't know much more. Actually, just we are using only target right here.
Yes, yes, yeah. So, but yeah, I would say just try it. try to read a bit, at least the architect, Snowflake architecture and how it works, right? And same, the way, we had, worked on, or we had given the interviews for other ETL tools like, so
Yeah,
Talent in
yeah, yeah.
Informatica. So the same way they would expect you to be have, hands-on practices on this tool. Okay, right? So Snowflake, that is always a plus point if you have that, right? I mean, anything if you have a greater, right? So that is a plus point. But having said that, you can, get the job on Matillion as well. Right? And as I explained earlier as well, right? So if you have worked on any one Matillion platform, let's say Matillion for Snowflake, for you it's pretty easy to work on any other Matillion platform, right? Matillion for Redshift or Matillion for Delta Lake or Google BigQuery like that, right? Because they look pretty similar, right?
Yeah, anyway, we are going to cover all the things. That is right.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, you can start preparing your resume, and however, down the line, right, down the line during these 3-4 sessions, you would get to know more on that part on the Matillion, right?
Yeah, yeah, Nitin. Just today Saturday, right? I thought I have been asking 2 days actually for Azhar, like Azhar told you are going to
Okay,
send today. Any sample resume? That's it. I don't want to go for correct
okay,
preparation now
okay.
itself.
Yeah, yeah. Sure, sure.
Just I
Yeah.
need a sample resume. Like,
Okay, sure, sure. I will also share now. I will share one document with you guys. So that has
okay,
just, sample questions
yeah,
and
sure,
standard project guidelines.
sure.
Okay, that will also help you.
Yeah, thanks, Nitin.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, yeah,
Like
sure.
in our journey, actually, like
Correct.
new technology and all, like appreciated anything like your guidelines and your help.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. No, no, that is my work. So yeah, so that is what, right? So I want you guys, to not to stop here. Let's say even if this training is over, so we can stay connected, right? If you try to read, go to Matillion sites, try to read something there, right? And if you find anything new, just post that link into our group, right? What
Yeah,
happens, right? If any one student is active in that group, right? So others are also then follow the same, right? Then they also find something new and they also share with you, right? So it's not just matter of this training of this 15 days, okay, 2 weeks
yeah.
training. Yeah.
Just 2 years enough, right? Nitin, 1.8, 2 years, like I can keep and I
Yes.
can go, right?
Yes. Yeah. This is pretty new tool and very less resources as of now.
1.8, I'm going to plan to keep only
Yeah.
1.8 kind of.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Nitin, this is just general question regarding setting our own Matillion instance on using Snowflake. So, if we wanted to practice only transformation, we don't need AWS
Correct.
bucket
Correct.
permissions, right?
Yes. Yeah. And
Okay,
majority thing, believe me, whatever they are going to ask in the transformation job, right? We'll cover everything within that. Okay. Now they will not go and ask at each and every component level that tell me like
Okay.
have you used the Facebook query component? No. They will mostly ask the job variable, grid variables.
mm,
Okay. They will ask the supporting components, how to set the scalar values, how to set the grid variable dynamically from external table, like that. What is the difference between environmental variables, right? We have seen these all, and we have few more on the orchestration job. Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I will let
Coming
me.
to Snowflake side, I mean, just having exposure on tasks and streams, data sharing, and this should be enough, right?
Yeah, that is pretty advanced. So that should be doable. Yeah. So
Okay, thanks, Nitin.
yeah, let me just see if I can. I will share this, but yeah, let me share my screen now. Yeah. So these are some of the things that I have. Okay. Purposefully, I have not kept the answers there, but yeah, you will get to know whatever we discuss, right? What are different Matillion products they will ask you, which are cloud databases they will support, what is an environment in Matillion that we have set up. Uh, how many environments we can create in single project. So there are multiple different types of job, right? Orchestration and transformation. What is the difference between them? What is the built? What are the built-in variables? Environmentals. Why grid variable used? difference between them, okay, how to see task history, how to see the SQL generated, right, in that SQL tab, what is data lineage, this we'll see. And then we have now rest of the component that we need to check. Now, which component used to load S3 to Snowflake? We have already used that, right? Uh, so such questions we have that, and once you go ahead in the training, right, you will get to know that again. What does query result to scalar? This we have seen today. Query result to scalar and query result to grid. How to set the child job variables from parent job, right?
Yeah.
So these type of thing they will ask you.
Really, that is better, Nitin, like to preparing all together in single
Correct,
document. Then going
correct.
through the document, that is very much
Yeah,
useful also. Like
correct,
instead
correct.
of searching for other sites and all.
Yeah, yeah. And you have like some Matillion based practices and which all component which are frequently used, right? See, I have used this only: SNS, Python, Bash, SQL, repeated RDS query, bulk output, Couchbase, API query, run orchestration. Then table input we have seen, table output, table update, filter, calculator, join, detect change, flatten variable. These all we will gonna see this flatten variant, extract variant. We'll see the detect change
Co-
as well.
Coding part is not much required, right, Nitin? As you
Correct.
said earlier, actually I'm weak at coding, so that is what I'm coming here.
Yes, yes, yeah. We don't need much of the coding here. But yeah, as I like for each ETL developer, we should be strong in the SQL queries, right? So
Yeah,
irrespective of your
SQL queries and
experience, yeah,
nothing but scenarios and challenges, but anywhere like coding part will be not available, right? As of now
correct,
in ETL.
correct, right,
Only that the complexity is old. Complexity is to
yeah,
reaching the functionality by using ETL components.
correct, yeah, that's right.
It is very much costly. Anything like how much the cost would be in Matillion, like for license version for clients?
Now let's see. Earlier, ETL tools were, they were providing the pricing based on annual licensing, right? So
Yeah.
company has to pay their annual cost upfront, and then they can use for the rest year. With Matillion, the billing is, per second billing that they do. Okay, so that for the time that your instance is on, they build for you, and when your instance
Mhm.
is off, they will not build for you. Okay, that is one thing.
Mhm.
So what usually happen in development and in UAT environment, we generally keep those instances off during our office hour, during out of our office hours, right? It's during the
Mhm.
evening to next day morning, like that.
Mhm.
Production, if you have all the most of the jobs which are scheduled in the IST timings, because you will not schedule anything during your business, your Eastern business time, right? So if needed, that can be also, stopped for some time. Okay, and based on your scenario, you can get the help from your cloud team to start and auto stop. So they will create some script, Python script, and usually they have. Okay, so they won't keep your development instances running for 24 hours a day. So they will restrict that. So cloud is, cloud is cheaper when you manage that well. Okay, otherwise it's pretty expensive if you don't manage your resources well.
So my question is still this question is not I'm not satisfied with it. Actually, like all the functionality can be done by using ETL, like Azure and cloud. Even ETL functionality also introduced by every cloud and Microsoft Azure and AWS
Yeah.
and GCP.
Yeah.
Even though like what is the like major benefits from Matillion?
Hmm. Yeah.
Normally,
Yeah.
just
So in ETL tool, right, you will not able to do properly, orchestrate overflow. So do you see whatever we did till now, whether it's, whether it's really flexible to do it with other
yeah,
cloud-based?
flexible. I could say only flexible like
Yes.
user
Yeah,
interface.
flexible.
Only that is
Y-
the only
Yeah,
advantage. The thing is
flexible
actually
and the faster time to develop. Okay. So with this, when you practice, your development is pretty faster, and the way they have provided their unique feature, right, getting the sample within the job only. So believe me, getting the lineage, data lineage, so the issue gets resolved very fast. Okay, and that's your time saving, right? So when you save the time on your resource, that means your cost is saved.
Let's
That
say
is what.
example, by using ETL, I have a 140 million records. It is taking 1 hour only to read the data.
Right, right.
Like can be done by using Matillion within 5 minutes. Kind of performance is there.
Yes, performance will always be there, right? Because if you see in your traditional ETL tool like Informatica, it will bring all 140 million data into its memory, right? And it will process one by one. Let's say expression transformation, filter transformation, joiner transformation, and all, right? But with Matillion, what will happen is since it's an ELT tool, that means it will push down that query to Snowflake for execution, right? So no data is getting loaded into the Matillion's memory. So that's one benefit. And if you execute that your job with some larger warehouse, like say large or Excel warehouse, then definitely your job will get finished in less time, right? Otherwise, what would happen if you usually get the out of memory issues in Informatica and that is very regular? What your admin will do or your infrastructure team will do, they will increase the RAM there, right? So
Yeah.
that means just for your one or two jobs, you have increased your RAM and memory and storage of your Informatica server. But here, right, just for that job, you can say, I will run only this, you know, the job which having the millions of data. I will only load this using only the using the Excel warehouse, Snowflake Excel warehouse. And rest job, I will use my normal medium warehouse, let's say, right? So that's also a cost saving for you, right? Correct?
Are they going to ask scenarios, Nitin? Like I have a source like this, how can you reach? And for example, every scenarios. Mostly like we have a transformation scenarios, right? ETL normally, as you know.
Yeah, yeah. So they will ask you which all component you have used in your or a transformation job. So the components are pretty similar, right? We have aggregator, we have used calculator, filter, distinct, sort, and all such, right? So we'll cover few more transformation component as well in the upcoming sessions.
They'll bring few scenarios in that case. Actually, we'll
Y-
practice.
Yeah, yeah, we have that zero, right? We have loaded that. So yeah, we have such scenario there. So we'll try to use that. But yeah, having said that, that will come with practice, okay? Because now
Yeah.
let's say if you have worked on in Informatica, now you know it pretty well because you have used them, right? And you
Yeah.
have used them multiple times, and now you can tell all those properties with a blind eye simply. Yeah. So that practice is needed there. Okay, nice. Sure, guys. Yeah, we can stop here. So let's meet on Monday on same time, and we'll now see little bit some of the advanced structure on the same. Okay. And we have now completed most of like half part of our session. Okay, so the remaining half part is pending now. Okay, so the more than 50% course is completed. Okay. Okay, guys, sure. Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks, Nitin.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks.